Thanks, Jameson. And you're right. We're following Toby Keith's advice and heading west, but not for any gold rushes just yet. Starting out with our most impressive performance in 5A this week, the Salina South Cougars have been on a date with destiny since playoffs have started. Coming into the bracket at 1-7, they opened up with a huge win at 3-seeded Andover 24-20 as 32.5-point underdogs. Never tell them the odds. The books took note of that win because they would then travel to Liberal, only 18-point underdogs, and the Cougars, well, they like those odds. South beat Liberal on their own turf 22-16 and now sit at 3-7 on the season, with their next matchup being crosstown rivals Salina Central, which was their season opener this year that Central won 31-21. On the top side of the 5A bracket, a sectionals rematch from last season featuring the Hayes Indians took on to traveling to Hutchinson to take on the Salt Hawks. Last season, Hayes was all gas and no brakes, pitching a shutout against Hutchinson 28-0 and was looking to repeat the same performance this year. Returning much of their offensive firepower, they made a strong effort to follow that same path. Hayes never trailed in this victory, with Holden Lind continuing to be a powerhouse in the backfield. Lind rushed for 177 yards on 27 carries and scored the first 2 touchdowns on the night for Hayes. His efforts that lasted the season have continued to give him a new credit on his resume, now holding the all-time career record rushing yards at Hayes with 3,662 and still counting. He has almost crested the 2,000-yard mark this season alone and will look to continue to pad his stats and the win column as Hayes traveled to take on the Great Bend Panthers. The Panthers did beat them in their last matchup just a few weeks ago, 43-19, and it should be a great game on Friday night. We're going to stay in the southern hemisphere of Kansas, where Washburn Rural traveled down to Sedgwick County to take on the Grizzlies of Northwest. Another game led by a prolific offense and running back that would make all the difference. Senior Augie Fast of Northwest puts up nearly 300 yards in the game as they roll to a statement win 52-28. Now, don't let the box score fool you. This game was close for the first 30 minutes. Fast had 3 rushing touchdowns in the first half as Northwest clinched a 24-21 lead at the break. But from there, Rural forgot to come out of the locker room. The Grizzlies scored 28 unanswered in the second half as they go on to win in convincing fashion, with Augie Fast putting up 5 touchdowns of his own. With Northwest advancing, they await the winner of another playoff rematch between Derby and Junction City. Last season, Junction City saw an early exit at the hands of the Panthers and would hope to rewrite their script. Unfortunately, they just resubmitted the same assignment from last year, trying to pass it off as something new, and Derby would take this game as well by a final tally of 28-7. Junction could never get their offense in rhythm and in the end zone, and Derby held the lead at the break 7-0. Their defense was the big story of the night. The Blue Jays, averaging over 33 points a game, gave up 3 turnovers, only gained 133 total yards, and did not convert a single third down on the night. The lone score from Junction would come from a special teams play on a 98-yard kick return by Lavelle Autry. With this behind them, they now have their sights set on crosstown rival Wichita Northwest. The Derby holds an all-time record of 8-0 against, last meeting in 2017. Now we'll bump down to 2A for a quick hop, and I'm setting this one up for 2 reasons. First and foremost, Russell has had a revival of a season, posting their best record in over 20 years, but unfortunately had the draw against heavyweights in Southeast of Saline Trojans, who have been merciless on their pursuit of perfection all year. They made quick work of Russell with a 44-12 final, and that was the closest game that the Trojans have had all season. The second reason I bring this game up is because we're set up for a fantastic weekend of football in Saline County. As I mentioned earlier, Salina South looks to continue their 5A Cinderella run versus Salina Central. Southeast of Saline is still gunning for their 2A title against Phillipsburg, and in 8-man Division I, the El Saline Cardinals are going to be locked in an offensive shootout against the Lincoln Leopards. And if none of that strikes your fancy and you want to travel to the big city instead, well, Wichita has just as much to offer. 6A Manhattan will travel to take on the 10-0 Maize Eagles, and Derby goes down the road for Northwest. 4A boasts contender Cape and Mount Carmel to take on Wellington, and 3A has undefeated Andover taking on 9-1 Pratt. And that is just the tip of the iceberg for this weekend's sectionals. I'm not going to spoil anything else on the west side, so instead, let's go back east, and I'm going to let Grady take over on some of our new players.